This time on Woody's Garage, we finally figure out what to do for the Bronco. About time.
So back at this old rusty snowblower, I've been thinking about breaking it down because there's a lot of good metal parts. I'm thinking of this as a bracket for the back for the jack shaft, and you know, I also kind of want to get rid of it, so I'm gonna break it down. Okay, I got that thing broken down. I was thinking what might be nice to hold the jack shaft. This would be your bearing holder here. See the outline I did. You know, if I cut it out like that, get rid of everything up here, you know, cut it across, keep the base down here. That's almost, looks like about the optimum height, you know. Maybe it's a little wide. You know, the other options is that this is actually an engine mount, which is kind of cool too. And there's also a nice right angle here. I can mount a pillow block or something too for the jack shaft. It's a pretty good piece, or even this, you know. Cut it straight across like that. Weld this on. The perfect place on the Bronco frame for the jack shaft would be 3 inches up right here. And this is how high we are. So this might be perfect. Okay, back to the Bronco again. What I did this morning was I made an engine plate out of aluminum. It was kind of like diamond plate stuff that was actually on the bottom of a crappy snowblower that I got, that I salvaged. I made it so, I don't know if you can really tell here, but it overhangs by about 1.5 inches, so the engine can come all the way forward and actually have a little bit. It lines up in the back here, so when I put up the jack shaft, it should have some of this plate to sit on. So it's kind of like, you know, all-inclusive plate to hold everything that I'm adding to this machine here. Yeah, it looks like we got to go with a 3.5. I tried our friend, the Honda GC190 again, and it has a gas tank. It has a fuel pump actually on the gas tank. Sure, I could get rid of the gas tank, but it still sticks out on the side pretty far. So I'm going to go with the 3.5 for now. I mean, we can always upgrade later, right? Here's a better look at the plate. You can see it's not bolted down or anything, but it was this aluminum diamond plate stuff, and I was like, oh, should I put this side up? It looks cool, but no, it's kind of scuffed up and stuff, and I don't know. I decided to go the other way around because one notch is actually bigger than the other side. The old plate doesn't come all the way to the front. This plate comes to the front and then some, so that the engine can go this far forward. And what's crazy with the engine on it, you don't even really notice it, so it doesn't look like really goofy or anything like that. So I want to mount this plate with a nut and bolt on the side, like here and here, so that it's like, you know, like part of the bike, and then drill the engine holes for it. Now, thinking about our jack shaft, I think we will use this piece of snowblower and cut it out kind of like how I have it wiped around here. Now, it's going to be too wide for the engine plate, so I'll have to cut it down the middle, I guess, someplace, so that these two will be on their own. Will this be substantial enough to hold it? Yeah, I think it will. And then you'd need bearings that have a, you know, the clip on them so that they don't sink in there. But I don't know how they won't come out the other way, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to crudely have to cut this out. That's going to be kind of scary. I hate the cutting wheel. It scares the crap out of me. And I'm going to lose, you know, this was a nice engine mount, etc. I might even ponder this for a little bit. I'm in the middle of cutting out these pieces for the jack shaft. It's going pretty good. I watched a video on safety about using a cutoff wheel because, you know, I get freaked out doing it. And it's basically, you know, you take it, and as you're going through, you kind of rock it back, you move it a little bit, move it back and forth like this, and then it kind of follows the line. Instead of just staying stiff and going like this, and it can bind. So this, you're kind of making a channel. It's a little wider and it's easier to follow. And this is kind of slow going, but I've got the other side about this far too. Going to cut it across here. And then as far as this side goes, I think I'm going to go about 3 or 4 inches this way and cut it off that way. Unless I go all the way through. I don't know. I think they're only going to be about 6 inches apart when all's said and done. And I hope I don't have to do a million more cuts on it. But we're roughing it out now anyway. There they are in raw form. Yeah, that's some stiff stuff. I believe that'll hold a jack shaft. We got left here. Lots more scrap. Okay, so here's kind of the idea. I only got one bearing because I'll show you in a second. But then this sprocket can go over here. And yeah, I think those are substantial enough to work. And yes, I think they're perfect to straddle the bar here. Now, the surprise. Maybe you already knew this. Is I went to go get another bearing and like, hey, guess what? These are different sizes. I don't know. I thought this was a standard size. Am I going to have problems getting one of these? I don't know. I got to go look it up. But as you see, yeah, these no. This, yes. So, another thing I was thinking of, it's just like, yeah, I'll probably go with these. But I was thinking about this thing. If you mounted this, and you mounted the big sprocket here and the little sprocket here, I mean, sorry, the spacing looks like it would almost be right. But would this have enough stability, and really, how would you mount it down? And you really wouldn't have any adjustment. You'd be kind of stuck pretty much. You know, maybe on on this side of the shaft, you know, you'd have a little more adjustment than this side of the shaft, but probably not a good idea. Maybe it's a good idea. And one other factor with these is the bottom is bumpy. My guess is if I'm going to use them, I'm going to have to cut them down like there. You know, I made them a little bit big so that I could cut them down. Are they at a perfect 90? That one looks better than this one. Probably pound them into shape. Alright, I got 2 of these bearings. One on each side. They don't fit this shaft quite right. I think this is 5/8. You know, we got the Beat 10 sprocket on there with the chain. And this big sprocket obviously won't fit on that. That's 1 inch. And one problem I have with this setup is I'm going to need a 3/4 inch jack shaft in order to be able to step up to the 1 inch sprocket. And yes, that's the most cost effective way I think of doing it. Now these bearings are number 6203 RSNR, and yeah, you can find those, but I'm going to need one with a 3/4 inside diameter, and I might have located them. They're about $10 a piece, which, you know, I'd rather pay $5 a piece, but, you know, if they're the only ones there is, then that's what there is. And then I'd get a 3/4 axle, and then I need a step up to the 1-inch for that, and this setup would actually work. How good? I don't know. This is where we're at now in the Bronco. We got the jack shaft not mounted to anything, just a piece of wood holding the two halves together, and an axle which jack shaft which isn't the right size, but will allow that 10 to sit on there, the 10 tooth, to the back wheel. That is about straight where it is. And then we got the big 36 here at the end, and it's about lined up with the clutch. So, you know, a little more refinements. The engine's got to be mounted. It looks about like in the right position. One of the biggest problems with all of this, I'm not sure if I've pointed this out before, but it's, let me get the light right. It's where the blower housing hits the frame. I mean, you got to have a tiny little space in there so that you could pull it off, perhaps, so it doesn't vibrate or whatever. And then it comes over the bar here, the front bar. It will bolt down there. And I'm going to have a little bit of a problem bolting the jack shaft down too. Like to what? So we do this in stages. You know, we lie awake at night thinking sort of about important things, about how to make a mini bike work. But I think this setup will work, and I'm pretty excited about it. And we'll have to come up with some kind of chain guard too. That is pretty close. The gas cap is still a big problem too, as in I don't have one. It's got these lips that hang out over the sides, and I've been thinking about modifying this. I think it's for like a plastic barrel, one of those big plastic barrels. Cutting this down so that it fits inside there. You know, almost does. And then just taking a piece of wire and safety wire and drill a couple of little holes there and twist it tight. Once you got a full tank of gas, that's what you do, and it'll, you know, it's certainly not convenient, but I think it would seal it out. Maybe a piece of cork in there, and probably need a vent right straight through the middle or something like that. At least until I can find something else that works. You know, I've been thinking about making one from scratch. You know, a round piece of metal and some tabs on it that grab. I'm sure that'll work just beautiful. And gas just finds a way to leak. Okay, I got the engine plate mounted with just 3 nuts and bolts for the moment. This one's a little dicey because of where the engine shroud comes down. I don't want that to be an issue. I might drill one in later, or maybe not, because the engine bolts are also going to be holding this down, and the jack shaft bolts are also going to be holding this down. So this is just kind of so that it's in place, you know, so when we start lining things up, it doesn't move around. Okay, we barely looked at this side because it's up against a table. But you get a better look at the jack shaft, how much meat I'm going to have to bolt it down, which I think is enough. I could trim it down, obviously. It's kind of wide. You know, I didn't know how strong the metal was, whatever. I might want to leave it like it is. I'm not quite sure. But I'd like to keep this kind of out of the way of the throttle. Another thing is the engine will not slide as far as I'm planning right now. It would be kind of nice to have it's obviously nice if you have an adjustment everywhere. But it might mean I need a couple of chain tensioners here and there, and I have no idea how I'm going to deal with those. But for now, yeah, it's looking really good. You can see, yeah, it's butted right up against the metal right there. And that's the other screw that mounts the plate, and you can see why I didn't want to put another one in there, because it's right under the shroud there, and the shroud might have sat on it. So if I can't get that gas tank going, I was thinking, I think this is a Tecumseh gas tank carrier, but look at the size of this thing. You know, I'd probably have to go with something else. But this thing needs a petcock and a gas cap. Now I also looked in my metal stuff and I found this. Has a potential chain guard. Probably have to cut it down. This is off a Briggs snowblower, that old red one that I have. And then I have this. This was off a Toro. Yeah, it'd have to be cut down a lot, but it would cover everything up nice, and it's wicked lightweight. It's probably what I go with. But for the gas tank holder, that is the right bolt pattern. You know, you could always trim it down to hold one of my smaller gas tanks. It would hold it pretty nice. But boy, that thing must be from one of the old 7-horse snowblowers or something. It is heavy duty. Look what I just found. This must have been on here. Much smaller bracket. Will it fit? I don't know. I don't know, but it's much smaller than this thing. Yeah, that tank would fit if need be. Good luck getting gas in it though. Okay, we got the engine bolted down. Drilled some holes, not perfectly straight, but I gave it a little bit of leeway to wiggle room. And we welded together the jack shaft plates. And we just put one screw in for a pivot in the middle so I can kind of align it, and then we'll put 2 more on the outside, 2 more bigger ones.